Hey, Justice Seekers. Thank you for coming to my channel. It is Saturday evening, September 24th. It is about 9:30, I think. Um, I wasn't going to do one today, but I just have been so upset about Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2. It seems like a lot of people are in the camp that I'm in, which is that it's completely bogus, 100% bogus. And it's just so upsetting to me that so much of this case is complete fabrication. So much of this case, right? I mean, just the whole timeline, the whole storyline, the whole premise. There's a lot to be upset about, okay? And for people to be imposing themselves and their fake evidence into the case to try to gain fame or fortune on freaking YouTube. I mean, it's such a disservice to the platform and to the case and to themselves. I mean, I'm just fuming. I'm really, really upset about it. And what I really wanted to say is that I think we all need to call and email the Nevada County Sheriff and say, when are you going to prosecute the people that are interfering with the investigation? Obstruction of justice, tampering with evidence, lying to authorities. No, some of those are felonies. So these people need to be charged. They need to know that they're going to be held accountable. And maybe that'll deter more people from stepping up and doing it the way it seems like it's been increasing. You know, we've just got one thing after another. I want to give a shout out to Harsh Reality. This guy, I think he's British, and man, I love his style. He said the most brilliant thing in one of his podcasts yesterday. How on earth can anybody be cleared when there's no crime? No crime. There's no date of death. How on earth can anybody be cleared? I mean, sure, if they were in Rome and it happened here in America, if they were in Rome for the whole month, then okay, they're not present, but they still could have had knowledge of it beforehand, during, after. These people are sketchy, and we know, if we can just step back for a second and just look at the photographs and the videos, everything we've seen, every character that we've seen that's part of the story or that's on the outskirts, you can see it for what it is. I mean, it is completely whack, right? It's just so sad. I mean, I personally feel a very strong connection with Kylie Rodney. I'm a mother of 4. She reminds me a lot of myself. I grew up some of my teen years in California. I know what it's like. That girl was amazing. And not to over romanticize, but she was a 16-year-old girl about to turn 17 on the brink of exploring the rest of her life. And she had that taken away from her somehow. So, this whole thing about people being cleared and, oh my goodness, is it true? Did that boyfriend, that ex-boyfriend who can't keep his story straight of his alibi or his status with her, did he move in with her mom? Really? Man, so many questions. So, the drive that he says is a 4-hour drive, the drive that his friends say is a 4-hour drive, we all know that that is about a 3-hour drive if you look at Google, and Google's pretty accurate. And we all know we can beat Google, right? If we're in a rush, in a hurry, we can, good conditions, good road weather conditions, and, no breakdowns, no accidents. And of course, it's California. It can be crazy with the crowds and with the accidents and the breakdowns. And that drive could take you 8 hours if there was a bad accident, or longer. So, on that day, if he really left his house in Napa at 8 a.m. on a Saturday in the summer, he probably got there at 10 o'clock in the morning. Literally, honestly, maybe 10:30. People aren't really going to Tahoe much in the summer, other than Exanime. It's a place where crowds swarm to in the winter for the snow. And in the summertime, it's beautiful, but there's a lot of beautiful places in California along the West Coast. And, it's a long drive if you already live in Napa or the Bay Area, where you got the coast, you've got a lot of parks, a lot of beautiful places to hike. And that's another really interesting factor in this whole scene, is the fact that this happened at I think it's a Federal Reserve, the Prosser Family Campground, the sanctuary, as they call it. So, I personally feel like we are in some kind of internet video war with the people that are trying to manipulate the story and dictate the narrative. And, YouTubers that are going out and finding evidence and finding witnesses and interviewing them and altering their voices and putting it on YouTube. I mean, they give YouTube a really bad name. They make YouTubers look like a bunch of fame-seeking whack jobs that will do anything to have people watch them. And, personally, I'd be super, super embarrassed to bring anything to the public through this platform that I knew was crap. I mean, who are these people? Of course, it takes all kinds, but I mean, the law enforcement needs to get involved. If people are making up lies and making up fake characters and making up fake evidence, they need to be prosecuted. I mean, the one who got deleted off of TikTok a year ago, I thought she got put in jail or something down there in Florida. And when I looked it up yesterday, it didn't look like law enforcement in Florida did anything. TikTok said, you're out. And then I'm pretty sure she went back on TikTok with a different name. And what an embarrassment to her family. I mean, who cares how much money you have when you have zero integrity? I mean, let me just say it for what it is. I mean, it's like you're prostituting yourself, right? If you're going to do something for money that has no substance to it, you're a sellout. You're trash, in my mind, in my opinion. And, I do feel kind of bad for insulting people that work in the industry of the sex trade, because that is a whole nother can of worms. I've worked with women trying to get out of that enterprise, if you want to call it that. And, it is also like a cult. Once you're in, you're not allowed out. You are not allowed out. All right. I'm kind of getting the picture that Kylie was excited to spread her wings and fly and get on with her life outside of Truckee. It seemed like she was planning to go to University of California in Santa Cruz and study medicine. She was looking towards being a pediatrician and possibly a pediatric surgeon. I wanted to tell you guys a little bit more about my history too, because I've said again and again that I have been raised in a family with law enforcement and military. And, there's a lot about that you can't talk about openly, right? Not even with your family. And then I also have 20 years of mental health expertise, being a mental health professional, doing assessments and referrals, doing critical incident debriefing, and, when people are a danger to self and others. I've had a position that was extremely interesting. I mean, I was operating much like a lawyer, but I was a mental health professional, and just stepping in a crisis and taking people's accounts of what has been happening and making an assessment, a determination if this person needed to be hospitalized or if there was a less restrictive, viable option where they could stay safe if they were suicidal or homicidal. And, when you're in a position like that, it's a lot like being a first responder, especially being a police officer. I kind of felt like I was the mental health police, the brain police, if you will. But when you're in a position like that, you don't have a margin for error. If you make a mistake, if you make the wrong decision, a bad call, people's lives are in your hands, okay? So, I mean, I'm just amazed with law enforcement that, they have to make split decisions in a millisecond that are life and death. This isn't quite the same kind of pressure as that, but it is, you have to trust your instinct. You have to have like spidey senses, and you have to go with the evidence that's presented to you, and you have to document everything. And if you're going to allow somebody a less restrictive alternative, you need to document exactly what that alternative is, why it's safe, why it's viable, and if something happens to them, not only are you going to be legally liable, I mean, you have to live with yourself. And I had colleagues that made bad calls and had a real challenge dealing with it. And, at the end of the day, all you can do is your very best. That's all we can do. And if you did your best and something bad happens, that's really sad, but that's as good as it gets, right? So, you just can't mess around. And, obviously the Placer County Sheriff that had Kylie's case when it was a missing persons case for 16 days or 15 days and allowed the teenagers to run everything and run interference and get the videotapes and photographs if there were any, talking to people, getting their accounts. Who knows what was going on in these trailers one-on-one, if people were being threatened. That would be my guess, is that, this was damage control. We've all seen movies like Pulp Fiction where you have the crew that comes in and does the cleanup work. And, that seems like what Zanime is and SF Investigates. And, Sammy thinks she's part of that kind of cleanup crew in a sense. It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. All of that is on the Placer County Sheriff's Department. All of the missing persons case up until it became a death. And, they still haven't said homicide. It seems abundantly clear to me that it is a homicide. But, we've yet to find out what the manner of death is and when it happened. Did it happen that night? Did it happen a few days later? So many questions. So, we didn't get a report. We didn't get an update from the Nevada County Sheriff or the California Highway Patrol or the FBI, who may or may not still be involved. Another thing that really gets me is that it seems to me like the authorities are acting as though this was not an abduction. And I don't know how they can jump to that conclusion, because it still looks to me like it could be an abduction. So I want to know. I want to know if this person was taken against their will. I want to know if she was incapacitated. Was this from an injury? Was this from being drugged? Was this from something that she made a choice to do? Or is this something that she was victimized? it's just awful. It's just awful. So as we're getting through the weekend and hoping that we'll get an update this next week, there's a lot of really good YouTubers out there that are focused on trying to find the truth and trying to help justice. And then there's some YouTubers that are just, I don't know what they're doing. They're just trouble. It's really, really unfortunate, but it would be pretty cool if they could be forced to discontinue their shenanigans. I mean, nobody needs that. And especially Kylie and her family. Just making a mockery of it. I mean, there's enough of that going on with SS, right? And with JJ or JG or whatever you want to call them. I think that's all I really had for the moment. The critical incident debriefing. Oh, yes, I really wanted to say this. When somebody is in a crisis, especially when somebody has seen something extremely traumatic happen, it is so easy to manipulate that person and literally tell them what they saw or didn't see. When someone is in shock and someone has experienced something that they never have before, they are extraordinarily vulnerable. So it's something to keep in mind with this whole situation. You know, whatever happened that night or whatever happened whenever it happened, if people witnessed it or knew about it, and if it was a trauma, you know, a trauma for the individual that's victimized, there's the secondary trauma to the witnesses, even to the professionals that are involved, you know, like AWP and seeing what they saw underwater. And, you know, if she was underwater for 2 weeks, it was horrifying. I mean, it would have been horrifying if she'd been underwater for 2 minutes, right? But the changes that occur in as time is passing, you know, we've talked about the temperature of the water, and, you know, it's pretty chilly water, especially that deep down. You know, it's probably 70 degrees this time of year. But just being decomposing in any environment, unless frozen, you know, it's really not something that I'd ever want to see. And like I said, professionals often need to deal with their grief and their trauma, the secondary post-traumatic stress disorder. We've all heard stories probably about the people who had to pull Shanann Watts' babies out of the vats of oil. You know, they had to drain that oil and get those little girls out of there. What were they, 3 and 4 years old, I think? I mean, it pretty much ended everybody's career that was involved, as far as I know. They just couldn't take it anymore. Heck, even people in the O.J. Simpson trial, that ended their careers with law. You know, when things go awry and things are just wrong, it's difficult. It's difficult to move forward and to press on. And, you know, it's really important for people to take care of themselves. So, you know, as a new YouTuber, I'm trying to put out a lot of content. I'm really excited to be here. If you haven't hit the thumbs up, please do so. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you wouldn't mind making a comment, it's exciting to read your comments. I try to respond to them. I've got almost 500 subs right now. Once I get up to 1,000 subs, I'm pretty sure I can start doing lives where, you know, I can look at comments that you're making, and if you're asking questions, I can read them out loud and answer them. So I'm hoping to get there. So if you like what I've been delivering, then I'm really appreciative. I'm appreciative of you checking it out. I hope you like it. I hope to provide a service to try to streamline all of this mass amount of information into something that's more like a Cliff Notes kind of version that is easier time-wise to take in than some of what can be pretty overwhelming. I mean, personally, I get overwhelmed even with a video that's close to an hour. You know, I'm in a good situation where I can sometimes have them on while I'm doing my housework or other work, while I'm at work, and I can get this information and do other things at the same time. So that's how I get it. That's how I can keep up. And it's still hard to keep up. There's so much. I try to pick the ones that I really like. I've shared with you guys the ones that I really like. I'm a huge Ryan Upchurch fan. He hasn't done anything in a few days, and that's, you know, I think he's really sharp. And if you don't appreciate that, that's okay. You know, we all have our different opinions. I like Zavgirl a lot. I really, really admire Paula Plunder. Watts the Obsession, Harsh Reality. There's so many good ones. CNY Family, she's just brought a lot of good information forth. And on that, I want to encourage anybody who hasn't read the affidavit of the Placer County Sheriff, the current Placer County Sheriff, Wayne Wu. Anybody who hasn't read that affidavit that's from May 15th, 2022, you can find it online, or you can look at my video that's from a couple of weeks ago where all I'm doing is reading the affidavit. I try not to interject any thoughts or opinions. I try to just read it straightforward. I do slip up a couple of times, but brief, very brief. And you can tell on the little thumbnail, it looks like a legal thing. You know, I use like little stamp insignias and justice symbols. So I think it's really important for people to recognize what happened there and how this person is, in my opinion, not fit for service. And he is the lead. And you know, even though he's not the lead of it now, he's still the lead of the case when it was the missing persons case. So I think that had everything to do with laying the groundwork and the foundation for the direction that it's gone in. So thank you. Again, hit that like button, subscribe, share it with your friends. And I'll probably try to update tomorrow just because it seems like there's a lot going on right now. I may not until Monday, but I'm having fun doing this. I'm very passionate about this situation with Kylie. I'm a little surprised, or a lot surprised, that all of my videos so far have been on this case. But this case, in my opinion, just keeps getting worse and worse. And that's the last thing I need to say, is everything I say here is my opinion only. It's just for conversation, entertainment, education, and, you know, take it with a grain of salt. Again, thank you for joining me. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll touch base with you tomorrow or the next day, hopefully. Thanks again. Take care.